Today we answer the question, who's going to London? Let's get into it. Yo, what's up guys? This is Why Not Be Reckless, aka Why Not Be Cast. I'm one of the HCS commentators and analysts and grassroots content creators, and we have another HCS weekly report where today we're talking about who's going to London, how and why, and answering all the questions. How, why, what, when, whatever. It starts off with us knowing who's already guaranteed a spot, because over the weekend, we actually had a qualifier that ran from the 11th to the 12th to find out who would take up the remaining spots. Well, before that qualifier started, we knew that Space Station Gaming, Optic, FaZe, Rebellion, and Complexity would be representing North America going over to London, which, by the way, pretty damn soon. About a couple weeks, it feels like. But we knew who would be representing North America. We also knew that Foe would be representing the European region, but we needed to know how would the rest of the bracket be filled up. So we know in SSG's pool, which probably might be considered the pool of death, considering they're the winners of Arlington, or what some people would consider the pool that you don't want to be in, would be the North American Major Qualifiers. So whoever won this tournament coming this weekend would be here. This would be based off of after the qualifier, so after we determined who was first, second, third, and fourth in the EU qualifier and who made it through that way, it would be whoever had the most HCS points in the European region. So theoretically, not as strong of a team as, say, the team that got first place during the qualifier, or the team that automatically made it based on points before the qualifier. So theoretically, you'd be looking at, maybe the third or fourth best team in Europe based on just on paper. In pool, and obviously a team from open bracket would make it through, because there is going to be an open bracket at London. In Pool B, you have Optic Gaming, and joining them would be the first place team from the major qualifier in Europe. So if Foe is the on paper the best team in Europe, based on points before the qualifier, not even having to play in the qualifier, theoretically on paper, you would say that whoever makes it here would be the second best team in Europe, theoretically better than the one in Pool A. Next team would be the North American Major Qualifier, second place. So again, whoever won the tournament from last weekend would make it here in Pool A. Whoever also made the grand finals but didn't win would make it here in Pool B and then join them as an open bracket team. Now, Pool C and Pool D are a little bit different, because we know two of the teams before the weekend started in FaZe and Complexity, along with Rebellion and Foe. Again, the number one team from EU making it through, not having to qualify. I know it's a lot. I apologize if it's a little confusing. It's making sense in my head, but hopefully it's making sense coming out of my mouth. Next up would be the number one team after the qualifier. So you have 5 teams that made it through North America that didn't have to qualify. We knew that the next best team would end up being here. The second next best team will end up being here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Theoretically, the 8th best team in North America would make it here in Pool C, and the 9th best team in North America would make it down here. Again, I really hope that it's making sense. Again, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams that did not have to play through the qualifier that automatically secured their spots for London based on points and didn't have to play in the qualifier. Then we had whoever won and whoever got second place in the qualifier. So essentially the two next best teams in North America. And then you have down here essentially the third and fourth best team out of the teams that didn't automatically qualify, for a total, I believe, 9 teams. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. For a total of 9 teams being made up of North America before the tournament starts, not including the open bracket. Again, I know it's a lot. I hope it made sense here, but that's all I got. A little confusing. So we know going to the tournament that whoever wins and whoever gets second place automatically gets in, and then based on points, would make it in as the next 4 spots. So if you look at points and you judge it by ranking, you would think Sentinels and Cloud9 are a shoe-in to make it in. Native Gaming and Reversal Perf would make it by points as long as they were able to kind of replicate their success that they've been having during the online season. I will tell you right now, that did not happen. There were some major changes that happened and some major pickups, so points tend to shift before the tournament even started. At midnight, there were a bunch of new teams created and an opportunity for new teams to upset what was already in the top 10. So let's get to the tournament and let's talk about it. So we did see Sentinels actually going up against Still Deciding in a 3-1. Now this was a major pickup for Still Deciding, because if you remember, if you saw some of my last videos, you saw that Manny was dropped from that Proton Gaming roster. They actually stole Colette from this roster on Still Deciding, and Manny decided, well, you know what? If Collect was on this roster, I want to go on to Still Decided, and I want to see what I can do with this squad and maybe make Proton Gaming regret their decision. I love the pickup for Collect, but I'm also a big fan of Manny, so I was rooting for Manny and Still Deciding, who, by the way, also decided to pick up Monster. I believe it was Diagram that was on this squad. I'm sure somebody will correct me in the comments down below, but I believe it was Diagram that was on this squad, and we'll probably find out exactly where he decided to go, but Still Deciding ended up coming up with Monster, who had some major points, especially after winning when subbing in for Space Station Gaming back when Legend was still doing his move, still doing his transfer, which feels like a long time ago. But I will say Monster had a ton of points, and you can see it right here, ranked number 9. Like, his points are ahead of Lethal, Precisions, and Falcateds. Like, what the hell? Now, I don't know if that's active or not, but it tells you that Monster has a damn good amount of points and a damn good history in these Face-It Online tournaments. Either way, Monster gets picked up by Still Deciding. This is a major boost for them. They're trying to go the distance in this tournament, and they do run into a very good Sentinels roster who, how many times have we talked about them trying to make it into a big 4, them trying to increase that big 3 and maybe turn it to an elite 4. Sentinels with the 3-1 over Still Deciding. Also want to point out that this was fresh off of 3-0ing Lies, who Lies decided to make a major change as well. Gunplexion not on the roster, putting in Mortally, which this is a big play coming out of Lies. I believe Mortally might have been dropped last minute because we saw him tweet out that he was a free agent, so maybe he could have left. Maybe there was a drop that happened. You know, I don't actually have proof, but either way, Mortally was looking for a home, and Lies decided to take advantage of the situation. Still, they were 3-0'd by Sentinels as well. Now let's scroll down to Proton Gaming coming up with the 3-0 over Native. Now this right here was a match to watch. You had Proton Gaming, who again just picked up Collect. So you have Native, who, remember way back when, dropped Neptune in order to pick up Last Shot. Proton, who was then going by business, swallowed Last Shot up and sold them on a grass is greener on the other side, and showing and saying that this team could be better. And Last Shot bought in, and he decided to go with business, now going by Proton Gaming instead of Native. Then Native dropped Collect to bring in Gilkey, and Proton said, well, you know what? That may have been the missing piece. We're going to take Collect from Native, or after they already dropped them. And with that, this new Proton Gaming roster, half of that Native Red roster, you know, you have Collect, who was on Native White at one point, and then you have Last Shot, who's a bit of a rookie this year, still trying to prove himself in the pro scene. 3-0 over Native Gaming. This was a statement being made by Proton Gaming. Native not able to get a win in this matchup. And by the way, we've been talking big on Native moving in the right direction. This series was close, Every game was, but at the end of the day, it was still a 3-0. I'm sure we'll talk about some teams like Bittersweet and more of Lies, and maybe even Cloud9 and Reversal Perfect down the lower bracket. But until then, we'll hop into the winners bracket finals, where a lot of people had Sentinels coming out with a huge win. So we thought, Proton Gaming, not only taking the Sentinels to a Game 5, a Proton Gaming that haven't exactly hit that ceiling that we wanted to. All year long, we've been waiting for Proton to execute. We've been waiting for Proton to hit that mark that we know they can hit. And that qualifier right before the major might have been what they needed to wake up, because they come out with a 3-2 against a red-hot Sentinels team. A Sentinels team that has that not only has the ability, but we've seen upset the likes of SSG, upset the likes of FaZe, and be competitive and great against an Optic Gaming. Proton with a 3-2 over them. Collect, also a former member of Sentinels. He's just on a revenge tour. Every team that dropped them, that missed out on the opportunity to keep Collect on the roster, he's going through them right now. At least in this tournament. Proton Gaming with a 3-2. Proton Gaming to the grand finals, and the favorites to win this tournament, only having to win one best-of-5 series, where whoever made it out of the lower bracket, including even Sentinels if they make it out, would have to win 2 best-of-5 series in order to claim the number 1 spot. And by the way, again, that number 1 spot gets you into a pool with SSG and potentially the second best team in Europe, as opposed to down here, and the third best team in Europe as opposed to down here against Optic Gaming, and potentially the second best team in Europe. Maybe a quadrant. Let's go down to the lower bracket. So we got Reversal Perfect with the 3-1 against Cloud9. In case you guys need a reminder, Cloud9, Tusk, Sabinator, Suspector, and Septify. Team that upset Optic Gaming, a team that made it into the top 4 previously. Cloud9 not able to beat out Reversal Perfect. Reversal Perfect, damn good roster. A damn good roster, and one of the favorites to make it to London. Let's double back here and let's see that Reversal Perfect were the 9th seeded team based on points. That if they were able to continue this energy, they would make it to London. Meanwhile, Lies with the 3-2 win over Bittersweet. Lies with the 3-2 win over Bittersweet. Bittersweet looking a bit different as well. Envoy, Piggy, Yaxon, and Diagram. A very good Bittersweet roster, but Lies coming in out of nowhere with a major upset, bringing on Mortally. Lies bring on Mortally, a player that was on this very Bittersweet roster. In fact, if you go back, it was Envoy, Piggy, Yaxon, and Mortally. For whatever reason, was it a drop? Was it Mortally deciding to leave? I don't know. All I do know is that Mortally joins Lies, and Lies come up with the 3-2 over Bittersweet. That's pretty huge if you ask me. From there, we saw Lies come up with a 3-2 win against Bittersweet, but not able to do the same against Native Gaming. Native Gaming 3-1, again, Gilkey, Barcode, APG, and McWin. And we talked about Native Gaming starting to looking really good against SSG, looking really good against some of the best teams in the world. Maybe didn't do as good as we wanted to see them up in the upper bracket, but still had an opportunity to make a deep run in the lower bracket. How many times have we seen teams do literally just that? In fact, it was Native White, who was Gilkey, Barcode, and McWin, that made it through the open bracket and made it to a top 4 finish back at the first event of what was season 2? So we're saying, like, teams have made deep runs through the lower bracket, through adversity. Native with the 3-1 over Lies. Still deciding with the 3-0 over Reversal Perfy. Still deciding with 3 over Reversal Perfy. These two would match up. They've already guaranteed a top 4 spot within the tournament, which is really good for points, but does not guarantee you anything. In this tournament, you had to consider it top 2 or bust because nothing was guaranteed. If you made the top 2, then you made it to the qualifier. No matter what, even 4th place, even 3rd place, still may have not been enough for you in order to qualify. So you had to treat it as such. And still deciding, coming out with the 3-0 over Native. Monster trying to get back to land. Monster trying to get there, but Sentinels in their path with the 3-0 on still deciding, stopping them just short for automatically qualifying. But there was still 2 spots based on points after this qualifier. Now we know that both Sentinels and Proton have automatically qualified for pools, and the rest now is based on points. The rest now is based on points after Sentinels 3-0 still deciding. Get to the grand finals, and we do see this not go to a bracket reset, despite the fact that we've seen, 2, maybe 3 weeks in a row of us seeing bracket resets. This time, not the case. Proton ended in the first one, 3-1 over Sentinels, where Proton become your champions, and they claim that spot to join alongside SSG. So, I have not done the math myself to find out how everything goes, but we have already seen all of the qualifiers, and we know how all the tournaments went. Thug Nasty, coach extraordinaire, my homie Thug Nasty, actually went out of his way to do the math, do the legwork, and he came out with a little sneak peek at what our seeds are going to look like. He did the math. We know Proton made it. We know Quadra were that number 1 team making it out of the qualifier. They won. We know Complexity were already guaranteed. Jump Out Gang was the team that made it based on points. Sentinels were the team that made it out via 2nd place, ended up with Optic. And we know Complexity. We now know C9 still deciding are taking those spots based on points. Now again, before this tournament came out, Native were in a damn good position. If things went the way they were supposed to go, Proton Gaming weren't even in the mix. Proton weren't even in the conversation. Neither were still deciding. And based on points, Sentinels and Cloud9 were supposed to win this, and this was supposed to be an opportunity for Native and Reversal Perfy to slide in there. This was supposed to be their opportunity. But a little bit of Rosetermania, a little bit of craziness, a little bit of magic happens, and instead you have Proton winning it, pulling up the rear. You have still deciding, bringing on Monster. Monster back on land, another opportunity to make things happen. This time on mouse and keyboard. No longer on controller is Monster. So we've been talking about Monster not exactly finding the success on land. Maybe mouse and keyboard might be the difference. And we know that C9 were able to make it based off of points. We now know who's making it to land. Who's making it to London. All right, guys, let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. Hey, good, bad, left or right. We now know who's making it to London. Again, in pool play. Still, a bunch of open bracket spots that are available. So we're still going to see a very competitive open bracket. It's still going to be so fun to watch. But all I'm saying is we now know who's making it into pool play, I should say. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of this pool play situation. Who are some of your favorites to make it out? You already know we actually will have a pool play discussion, a predictions stream at some point in time. So let's have some fun. All right, guys. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff, blah, blah, blah. Peace out.